สวัสดีครับ I'm Point from ค้นพบ During these difficult and challenging times, given the COVID-19 pandemic, I think that it is especially important for us to try our best to practice patience with others, to learn to see the good in people, to learn to see the best in people. Because understandably, there's so much stress going on right now, so many stress factors which can lead us to feel trapped, to feel stuck, to feel hopeless or helpless, to be worried, to feel anxiety, be anxious, to feel and be in fear for the safety of our loved ones and for ourselves. Because the uncertainty means that we don't know what's going to happen next. How are we going to manage it? How are we going to get through it? What if our loved ones get COVID? What if we get COVID? And understandably, there's so many other stress factors, such as the fact that our normal everyday routine in life has been completely disrupted. We're now forced to stay at home most of the time, or certainly much more often than before. And especially if it is the case where you have to spend more time under the same house, under the same roof, with somebody who you might not naturally get along with in the first place, then understandably, that is sometimes a recipe for conflict, for argument, for lashing out at one another, for blaming one another, for venting out your frustration and stress amongst each other, even for the slightest things, right? So understandably, it is difficult to try to see the good or the best in other people during these circumstances. But what I want to propose is that seeing the best in others, it is not about accepting or welcoming their poor behavior. It is not about ignoring the fact that perhaps them lashing out on you or blaming you for some random thing, for the smallest thing. It is not about ignoring that they've done that. It's not about welcoming or asking them to do more of that. But seeing the best in others, at least for me, is simply about understanding human nature. Understanding that fear sometimes causes us to behave in ways that seems to be out of control. And sometimes we blame one another. We point fingers. We lash out at one another. Because understandably, when we're caught in fear, people make mistakes. And we're not perfect. Nobody is, right? Second thing I want to propose is that, think about it this way. Who is the first person to really benefit if we try our best to see the good in others, to see the best in others? The first person who truly benefits is actually you, because you retain a much more calm state of mind, a much more peaceful state of mind, a much more optimistic state of mind, optimistic in the truest sense, because you are essentially telling yourself that even if they lash out on you, they blame you, they do something unfair to you, but even if you're still able to remain calm and still see the good in them, still see the best in them, that means that you are growing a genuine self-belief and self-confidence in your ability to remain calm, to remain in control, no matter how difficult the circumstance or the situation may be, no matter how much you may not like the situation. Nobody likes being blamed. Nobody likes being yelled at for no reason. Nobody likes being lashed out upon, right? Seeing the best in others doesn't mean you have to like it. It doesn't mean you have to like it. It means you understand the reason behind their behavior, which oftentimes go back and ties with fear, right? If you can see the cause and effect, the chain of cause and effect here, we're much more inclined to forgive, to understand. Because if we truly understand some situation, why would we need to feel powerless in relation to it anymore, right? We regain control, we regain power with understanding. And as I mentioned in my other clip, also this week, released this week, in my coaching page, Thrive with Point, if you really think about it, we are never really afraid or scared of any situation. We're never really afraid of anything, actually. However, what we are afraid of is the emotions that we create around that situation. We are afraid of the emotions that we create about the situation. So for example, in the COVID-19 pandemic and the fears that come up, technically we're not really afraid of COVID. What we're afraid of is the emotions that would come up if our loved ones or if we were to catch and get COVID. Right? The reason why I lay it out like this is because once we understand that this is always about emotions, which comes from our underlying belief in our capability or skill set in being able to handle or manage that situation, and in being able to handle and manage and control and cope with our emotions when dealing with that situation, right? If we had genuine high self-belief there, high self-confidence there, then by definition, we wouldn't need to act out of control. We would still be able to remain calm and relatively get stress handled safely under our control, right? For some of us who have not yet developed those skills or have not yet perhaps realized those capabilities in themselves, of course they will feel trapped and stuck and fear, and that leads them to lash out. And another reason why people lash out, or another reason why people blame each other or blame other people, is because in that moment of time they're scared and they don't want to accept responsibility for their emotions, so they lash out. It is of course very tempting when we are faced with that situation, say when we get yelled at for no reason, when they start an argument with us, when they start a conflict with us, when they blame us, when we try to help them and they reject our help in a mean way, for example. If we truly understand the mechanism going on here, then why would we need to react back, right? Of course, we wouldn't need to react back. Because again, with understanding comes self-control. If we truly understand how our emotions work, we're also able to understand how emotions in other people work. And with this understanding, we're better able to manage and control ourselves. And if we're able to manage and control ourselves, we're able to see the good in people more. Because we're not blaming them for their poor behavior or for lashing out. Because we understand that they're capable of doing so much more. They just haven't realized it because they're trapped in fear. You see the understanding that leads us to look at things that way? And when we are able to see the good in other people, when we're able to see the best in others, even when they themselves maybe are not at their best day, right? What we're really demonstrating is we're really demonstrating our own emotional maturity. And that is a quality of a leader. And once we're able to demonstrate that better, they will pick up on it sooner or later. Because you see, feeding anger only leads to more conflict, only leads to more blaming, more lashing out, more anger, more hate, more behaviors that are out of control. So somebody has to be the first person to cut that chain, right? And nobody can do it but ourselves. So I invite you to try and to continue to grow with me, to practice patience, practice understanding, to learn to see the good in others. If we are the one who is able to cut that chain, even if they may yell at us, call us names, blame us because they were afraid themselves or for whatever reason, sooner or later, they will have to stop their lashing out or their behavior, because we're not giving them more fire. We're not adding more fuel to the situation. We're not making the situation more heated, more angry, more hateful. And after they've calmed down, they'll appreciate our ability to be calm. They might not say it directly, but I'm sure they can feel it. And we have essentially demonstrated leadership for them. And also, when we're able to do this, what we're actually doing is we're actually mastering ourselves. That's what it really is about. And also, when we're able to master ourselves, we also give an opportunity for other people to grow along with us, because we're not making the conflict worse and more than it needs to be. So what I want to leave here as food for thought today is to learn to see the best in others, which means learning to truly master ourselves first. If we are able to remain calm and still remain feeling in control, no matter how difficult the situation, no matter how how they had started to blame us or yell at us or lash out on us, no matter how they started the conflict, in other words. If we're still able to remain calm, then you have mastered yourself. And if you've mastered yourself, then you have already won. Think of it that way. So how do we begin to practice this, cultivate this patience? First of all, this is an issue of emotional self-awareness. We want to teach ourselves to be able to cope with emotional difficulties. Again, it's never about the situation itself. It's always about the emotions that we create about the situation. It is always about the emotions that we create around the situation. Therefore, it is about how we respond to the situation. Learn to recognize the emotions that you have right now. Say when your partner yells at you, when your sibling, when your parent lashes out at you, right? Because they themselves were stressed. Learn to recognize the feelings of discomfort that comes in. Learn to recognize the emotions where you perhaps feel hurt by what they said, and that wants to get you to yell back and argue back, and let them have it, an eye for an eye, per se. Learn to cope with that and tolerate that and stay with that. Because once you learn to take a step back, regain perspective, and cope with it, right, you're not reacting. And once you're not reacting, you're essentially teaching yourself that, wait a minute, these emotions, they're not going to kill me. I can cope with them. I will not give power to those emotions because I'm always in control. No emotion or nobody else has power or control over me. And I think that's a very, very empowering state of mind to be in. And we can all learn to achieve that, right? So learn to cope with our emotions, that we perhaps feel angry as well. We get upset as well when they say mean things to get underneath our skin, when they say mean things to lash out at us, blame us, criticize us for things that we may or may not have done. Cope with that, tolerate that, accept that, process that, not react to your own emotions. And you will begin to see how amazed you are in your ability to regain self-control. And when you don't react back to them, the conflict will diffuse rather quickly most of the times. And if something does need to be said, we will be able to say it from a more constructive place, or say it at a later time when things have calmed down a little bit better, and therefore avoid unnecessary conflict. Right? And again, this is a issue of we're just demonstrating our own self-mastery. We're demonstrating leadership indirectly, and sometimes the best teachers are teachers by examples. So I wanted to give this as food for thought today, that take this as an opportunity to grow, to develop, to mature. Take this challenge and difficulty as an opportunity to test yourself and to continue growing. Okay? I hope this video was valuable for you. Again, learn to see the best in others. Learn to see the good in other people. Because the truth is, what we see out there is always a reflection of our perspectives, of ourself. What we see in others is always a projection of our own state of mind, in other words. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope this was valuable for you. If you liked the video, please give a like, please give a share. And don't forget, I am on both Facebook and YouTube for Konpop. And be sure to check out my other page, my mental health coaching page, Thrive with Point. Information should be on the screen now. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. สวัสดีครับ